All right, man, we're live.
We're live. Fortunately, nothing has happened since we were last on together.
Yeah, dude, totally uneventful.
Super
Um,
boring.
Super boring.
Hey, compared to my predictions, very boring.
100%, man. I mean, you were predicting civil war and mayhem and
Stop
you
the
know,
steal, man. She's
stop
she's.
in reverse, stop the
Why would
steal in
she
reverse.
concede when she could still fight? I mean, did you hear her concession speech? Fight, fight, fight. That's the only thing she said. We're gonna fight. We're gonna fight. We're gonna fight. Also, congratulations. We're gonna fight. We're gonna
Yeah,
fight.
yeah, I concede, but I do not concede the fight that we were having.
We're
So
fighting. The
we're
war isn't
fighting.
over.
Now, excuse me while I go soak in my tub. Oh my gosh.
No, I have to. There's on campus today. There was so much Trump paraphernalia. A lot of people are wearing the hats. Some of them have like 45. Some say 47. So like the 45
Nice.
ones are like, oh, you're the OG Trump people. Um,
Oh, you
one
have the
guy,
original hat? Yeah.
yeah, one guy had a shirt on with the failed assassination attempt one. You know, when his fist is up in the air. And I didn't see any of the. I'm voting for the outlaw and the hillbilly, but I'm sure it was there somewhere. But a lot of people had stuff on. It's kind of a festive atmosphere.
I still don't have any, proudly do not have any Trump paraphernalia. I'm not likely to buy any. I do have two MAGA hats. I have one that says "Make America Great Again," but it's written in Russian, which I thought was apropos since they work together there. And
Oh
then I have
yeah.
another one. I have another one that I made myself for Halloween a couple of years ago that says I went to the mall and went to Lids and got one made. It's a bright red hat and it says "America suckers." uh,
So
but
you have parody hats.
parody paraphernalia, yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
I couldn't get on the train, man. Yeah, I waved as it passed by. Okay, enjoy your trip.
Well, I mean, there's
But
one thing to wear stuff ironically, but like the things themselves for you are the ironic ones.
100%, dude. I'm
Yeah.
just like, well, dude, and I mean, I've joined my share of I'm a joiner sometimes, but I could not hop that train, man. But I would love, dude. So
Hmm.
so first of all, I just want to paint a picture of what we went through last night. So
Okay.
mom and dad were here, visiting to take care of dad's mom or grandma, and they spent the night. And so mom's birthday is in like 3 days. And
Okay.
so we were asking like the kid, hey, what do you want to do for Mimi's birthday? And, oh, let's do a puzzle. Oh, let's do this. Let's take her to dinner. Let's eat ice cream, whatever. And so
All good options.
all good options. Well, anyway, at the end of the day, with the nursing home and all these different things that they had to go do, by the time they got home, it was just kind of late, and we're like, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to sit here. And mom goes, well, can we watch the election results? I'm like, oh, is that what you want for your birthday? Okay, we'll do that. And we were up until 4 in the morning, watching these
Whoa.
results, and of course, I I didn't really know what direction it would go. I had predicted, months ago, right after, in fact, the day after his assassination attempt, I was like, oh, dude, this is he's going to win. Like, I mean, because, I mean, not that that's necessarily my preference, but it was like, dude, I mean, like, I can't think of any. I mean, it's difficult to think of moments that compete with that in terms of just American moments. I mean, a guy running for president or a president nearly assassinated and getting up and basically like, let's go. That was, I mean, even Zuckerberg was like, dude, that gave me chills. So I was like, yeah, I had a hard time. Of course, at the time Biden was running, and then of course they did the whole switcheroo. We made this journey. Everybody knows what's going on,
I
but
love that that's been the kind of branding name for it.
switcheroo,
The switcheroo. Everyone
the
seems to call
switcheroo.
it that. It's caught on.
And well, anyway, so mom just was totally convinced, that they were going to steal this, from like Trump, because they stole it last time. And I'm like, well, they didn't steal it last time. Well, how do you explain this? I'm like, well, so let's break it down like this would be an explanation. That would be an explanation. At the end of the day, where's the evidence? And well, I just know, yeah, I just know they stole it. Oh, okay, all right. Well, maybe they did, and let's hope they don't do it this time, right? It was kind of
Yeah.
like, all right, but I'm not going to argue about it. And just I was blown away at just how kind of smoothly the whole night went. Like, I mean, because I kept switching back from, Fox to MSNBC to CNN to News Nation. I mean, I was going all over the place. And then there was several podcasts that were hosting, so you had, the Timcast, you had Patrick Bet David, you had on the left you had some. There's that Satanist guy that for his sticks 666 or whatever.
Hexenhammer, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it was a wild night, because I think just across the board, the things that stood out to me were, number one, there was no real like objection or shading from the left as these, Trump victories just cascaded last night. I mean, it was just, and it was kind of, it was straight reporting. It was like, wow, I mean, he's losing. Well, she's the, I mean, it was very flat, straight, which is unusual. And there was also, I thought, on the other side, very little gloating going on the right. You didn't hear a lot of like, we told you so. No, there was none of that. I mean, there was one guy that said something on a podcast that I was like, bro, I just hope you tone that down, But I mean, you had Shank from the Young Turks, just basically like, dude, I mean, she saying everything that I had been saying, that we've been saying for the last like several months. Dude, I mean, she just ran a lackluster campain, didn't put in any ideas. I mean, it's amazing that you can tell the truth, now that the votes are done, like, so she's not the second coming of whatever after all,
The vibe. It's got that Brad energy. Yeah. It's Mamala.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody was saying that, and of course, she just gave her concession remarks, and I was watching. I think I watched it on MSNBC or whatever. Joy Reid's talking about, whatever. And, she lost because of misogyny, and, the country's not ready for a woman president, and men just have a problem with women. But okay, if that's the lesson you want to pull from it, you have learned nothing, and that's fine. And then it was my instinct. And then somebody's like, well, what do you think? How do you think these remarks are going to be taken? Hopefully she sets this tone and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just thinking in my head, dude, like nobody is going to pay any attention to this speech. Like this is, it will be little listened to and very soon forgotten. She just, I mean, I can't think of a more meaningless campaign in my lifetime than the one that she ran. And, and I was saying this to a friend of mine this morning, a liberal friend of mine. And, I was like, look, every criticism that I've been making, like I've been making with love. Like I wanted Democrats to come up with a good alternative. I didn't think it was that hard. I'm like, dude, okay, so they're going to nominate Trump. Here's all the laundry list of things that make that not the most intelligent choice they could make. So great, if they're going to feed into our hands, then let's put up some compelling alternative. Certainly, there are so many compelling alternatives, and instead, no, let's run two candidates, both of which are just abysmal. So, at the end of the day, it's kind of like nobody to blame but themselves. On one hand, and then on the other hand, I'm kind of like as you look towards the future, it's like, well, again, not my preferred outcome, and I find myself strangely hopeful today. It's like the tone that Trump struck last night was excellent, very presidential, dare I say, and I
stayed awake for it. It was mostly just thanking his supporters, thanking the different people. Gave different people a chance to kind of have the limelight for a little bit, and it's nice.
I've had multiple conversations today with friends on the left that are just like, just terrified, they're going to come and they're going to, throw me in jail and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I just really, I don't believe that's the case. I mean, if I end up wrong, I mean, hey, I said it here, where to come to gripe at me. I told you.
Well, and also I'll hide you.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Russell will hide you. Exactly.
But that's the thing. It's like, hey, if that really happens, I'm on your side. We're
100%. Yeah, I just don't see. And the other thing is, I just think there's a couple. To me, there's some clear lessons, which we can get to in a minute. But I'm curious to get your perspective. How it went down for you.
Yeah. So I had a much less exciting version of last night. So
I forgot to tell you the end of the story. Mom was like, "Oh, best birthday present ever."
So that is kind of funny because our parents are both like very strong Trump supporters.
Right.
this morning when I talked to her, I was like, "Hey, did you enjoy your early birthday present?" I had no idea, so that you guys had that exchange. So she's like, "I did, yay!" No, for me, I was at the political science department over at HCU. Held a debate watching, not debate, results party,
Election party, yeah.
and they had like the two flag. They had the Democrat flag and the Republican flag, like the elephant and the donkey, and
Donkey, yep.
people were showing up with their campaign gear on. It was just a very festive atmosphere. There's pizza. HCU was very chill, so it's like cool. We're all here together, and different people would cheer as states were called, depending on which side they were on. It was nice. So I stayed for a little bit, but it was noisy because it was like too much of a party atmosphere, and I wanted to hear some of the analysis. So probably around 8 o'clock, I came home, and then my wife Marissa and I we watched maybe about an hour of it until it started to get kind of repetitive. And so,
hey, that's good that you got Marissa to watch for an hour. Loa was like, don't even talk to me. She was downstairs. We were upstairs. She's like, I don't even care. I don't want to know.
When I say watch, we sort of hang out, and she was texting people and had a couple phone calls. And if someone said something interesting, she'd be like, well, why? That's kind of weird. Why would they say that? Kind of thing. But it was sort of, she's not super invested in
Interested. Yeah.
And then after a couple hours, we kind of had a snack, chatted for a little bit, and then she went to bed. And I stayed up till 2 watching it, but I turned the audio off. So, because it's just like
to watch the body language,
and watch the numbers as they came in, and then just listen to music and sort of enjoyed a really peaceful watch. The stream that I didn't watch any of the regular news channels. I watched a stream on YouTube, Election Time. I don't know if you are familiar with that guy or not. He's nonpartisan, and basically he's a poll guy. So he's someone that does poll aggregates independently of but think of kind of what Nate Silver or Real Clear Politics Average does. He does that kind of thing. And
the poll of polls, basically.
Yeah. So what he was doing was not his face or anything. It was just like he would go to different maps and look through the county results to be able to determine how things were leaning. And he was correct in all of his calls, although he was probably about 15 or 20 minutes or sometimes about an hour before the networks called the states.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But it was no hype. There's no guest. There's no nothing. He's just like running the numbers as they come in. That's all he did. And it was a really good way to do it. I think if I was sitting there listening to the commentary, I probably would have been all stressed out. But he's just like a no stress because he's nonpartisan. It's like, okay, this is
it's just a game to him, so he's just watching the horse race.
This person, this candidate here for Senate is he's outpacing previous results in these counties, and like it's just like it was nice, very data driven. So that was mine. And then after the acceptance speech, I did switch over to CBS for that, and it was really funny. So they aired the whole thing, and then when it was done, so they had not yet called Alaska.
Right. So he was 267. AP was 267 until I think this morning. Yeah.
So they're like, so after he finishes, now we just want to point out to our viewers that
he actually hasn't won the election.
He actually hasn't won. We have not called the race for him yet. We have not. So this is premature. But it is looking likely. But just so we all. I mean, it's the whole sort of reflex. Of like what. Remember, he's wrong. He's wrong.
Check everything. Yeah.
It was really funny. It's like, okay, whatever. Thank you. And so after I saw that, then I went ahead and turned it off, and then I didn't wait for Wisconsin to get called by the majority of outlets. So, I
thought it was David Muir, I think, on ABC was headlining that desk, and he, it got to be about 2 a.m, and they were still at 267, and but. To me, it's like, dude, okay, Alaska is obviously going to be Trump, so that's 270. So, like, I don't even know what we're doing here.
Yeah.
But and at some point he goes, now, to those of you guys that are watching, they're wondering why we haven't called, this state or that state. Obviously, like, we can all read here, and we all of us at this table,
we're looking at it,
can tell where these numbers are going and what the likely outcome is, and we don't talk to the decision desk. And when I was talking to them, the head of the decision desk, he just said, look, I mean, we're not going to, because if they had called Alaska, then it would have been 270 Trump, electoral likely president or whatever. And they did not want that headline up without some mathematical certainty, which I was like, I get it. Okay, that's cool.
Well,
all right, it's all good.
when I was talking to Mom this morning, she asked that. She's like, why did they take so long? I think, honestly, the experience in 2020 with Fox News calling Arizona early, and it turns out that they made the correct call.
Yeah.
But I think it was more luck because there was still a lot of Republican vote that was left, and the margin was way narrower than they thought that it would be. And there was like a day or two in there where it was really kind of up in the air whether they had gotten it right. And a lot of people, since Fox News viewership leans more Republican,
people were pissed.
They were very upset. Yeah. And I think the news networks are like, we don't want to be the Fox News of 2020. And so we're going to wait till we're very sure that this is not going to be embarrassing, and then we'll call it.
Yeah.
And I get that. And then also, I mean, when I was watching the Election Time guy, a lot of the people that were commenting on his stream were like, man, why aren't New York Times calling Pennsylvania? Like, it's done. It's done. I mean, even on their whole thing, it shows like 98.9% chance of Trump winning. Like, what are they waiting for? Why? And he was like, look, they're not a YouTube channel. They have advertisers, they've got sponsors, they've got people that are sitting at these desks, and they have to pace out the content.
You mean they're professionals?
Because he's like, it's television, know. So like, just let them run their television show. We're doing something different. So it's more exciting to watch the TV because they know how to make the story exciting. I was like, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's totally fair. But yeah, I was what I was really surprised by in this whole thing. I've been following Rasmussen pretty closely because
me too, and to me, they've always had a more accurate take on. Nobody else apparently can crack the code on where these Trump voters are. I mean, they have consistently. I mean, seriously, 2016, 2020, and 2024, they have consistently underpolled the Trump vote by 3 to 4 percentage points in the aggregate. I mean, at some point you're like, well, dude, I mean, these polls are, worthless. Yeah. Rasmussen seems to have had he had the right pick most of the time.
Well, and what he had done was because he was showing, he was oversampling Trump voters. And so what he had done was he had, the sample, he had somehow, I forget what the method that he had used, but he synchronized it to the 2020 sample. So it brought his Trump responses down by 3 points because he was having the raw numbers said Trump plus 5. But when he did this synchronization, he was like, it's going to be Trump plus 2, 1.5 to 2, which looks like that's more or less where the popular vote landed. He was wrong about Michigan. He thought Michigan was going to go blue. So I mean, it's not perfect, but like, very close, and I was very surprised by just like, hey, here's all the like good poll aggregates, and that's more or less what happened. So it's like, huh?
Yeah.
How weird. I guess I gotten used to it just being, after 2008, where like all the polls showed Obama running away with it, and he did run away with it. It's like after that, it's been real squirrely trying to figure out what's going to happen. So,
yeah.
Anyway.
Well, it was kind of interesting, too, because that guy, what's his name? Alan Lichtman, that had the keys. There was
the keys. Yeah, the keys. Yeah. Whatever happened to that guy? Because he was like, the keys are definitely favoring Harris and stuff.
Because he gave her, to me, his whole point of view was flawed because not the keys, but let's take the keys as gospel fact. I mean, he gave her the economy, which he should never have given her, and then he gave her incumbency, which he shouldn't have given her.
Oh,
and so to me, I mean, that's but if you ever listen to him talk, I mean, he's very much like he had his own preference and bias built in there too, to his point of view this time. So
that's weird because she ran as a non-incumbent, like the whole let's turn the page, new path forward, all this other stuff.
Right.
Like, that would be strange to give her that one. Oh well. Yeah. Obviously now that we have hindsight, thinking about what the Democrats should have done. Like I think with hindsight, looking at it, and
They
like
should have run a campaign.
the Republicans won, so
They should have put up a quality candidate and run a campaign.
well,
That's what they should have done.
right.
Yeah,
So thinking about the Republicans, right? So they won, so it's very hard to gain lessons from winning, other than it worked.
right.
You know, so not that we're being partisan here, but like there's sort of more things to talk about with a loss than a win. So I think maybe the decision happened, the fatal decision happened at some point. I want to say probably in 2022, when it became really obvious to everybody that was just looking at footage that Biden had somewhat diminished, even since the campaign in 2020. And that would have been the time if the media had been like, hey, we're just going to report it. We're just going to show all the clips of Biden falling down the stairs, shaking hands with nobody, getting lost, so on and so forth. And instead, they were like, no, everything's fine. Biden is sharp as a tack, etc. If they had just shown the footage, I think there would have been this mounting pressure of like, you need to step aside. Harris would have been the first female president. She would have stepped into that role as a vice president, and then she could have run a campaign like a normal incumbent.
There's a lot of second guessing going on right now. There's a circular firing squad going on. Anytime there's a loss, but it's just always
Everyone's
amazing to me how fast. Both sides do this. I mean, it's just amazing to me how fast they throw over their nominee. I mean, remember when Romney lost? It was like, Romney who? Oh yeah, he sucked.
What a loser!
Like, oh, yeah. And then the same thing with this one. Yesterday she was the second coming, and then today she's, obviously she was going to lose.
An obviously bad candidate. Everybody knew she was a joke.
Everybody knew. Yeah. Well, then what have you been talking about for the last 8 months? Anyway, I just 6 months.
Hope.
3 months, right?
Yeah.
What
just
hope.
hope.
3 months? 4 months? Yeah.
What do they call it on Patriots? Patriots I win is hopium.
Hopium.
Been injecting hopium.
Well, so I think that's a good question, man. I think a couple things. I think when the media decided, I'm going to use the term media to describe, cable and network, the majority of the media outlets, save Fox, who they have their own constituency, but people argue, they have a constituency of one, as long as Trump's happy, then their audience is in the right place. But for real though, I think at some point in 2019, the media decided that, Trump is dangerous. And I think I personally hold that view even sitting here. So I think it's a very reasonable view to come to, is that this guy is dangerous. He's got he clearly believes in unchecked power for the executive, which I think is problematic no matter which party that you're in. He doesn't take accountability for any mistakes, and he's very quick to, if something is going sideways or somebody turns against him, to throw him to the wolves. There's very much had he gotten the right people in place to actually do what he had said he wanted to do, and they had not been circumventing him, you remember all the op-eds that came out.
I'm in the resistance.
Hey, I'm in the White House.
I'm stopping him for you.
We're looking out for you guys. I mean, if those people hadn't been present, and he had a whole team of people that were actually doing what he wanted them to do, which, by the way, that is our system of government. So, right.
They should have. Yeah.
A president gets elected. He chooses his staff. That staff carries out, his initiatives within certain checks and balances. Anyway, I think after a lot of those letters had come out, for the first even year or two, even with the reporting on the Russia collusion and all this other kind of stuff, there was still an effort to report, with a tilt, but still there was an effort to report on okay, well, here's a problem. What do you think about that? But I think at 2019, I don't know what the date was, but I mean, there was a clear shift. And I remember reading an op-ed, and then there were started to be all these other op-eds coming out of like, look, we've been, as the
The
media,
coordinated op-eds.
we have been too accommodating and normalizing this behavior, and we're just, it's not good for the nation, and so for the good of the country, we are going to actually tell you what we think, and give you our best advice, and it turned into we have to stop this guy, and for the good of the country. And
For the
so,
good country.
and I remember right after the election when Biden won, there was an article that came out in, I can't remember what magazine it was, but where the multiple people at all these different media outlets, and they had come together and said, we actually had a circle going on where we were coordinating with each other which stories we're going to elevate, which stories we're going to suppress, or we're not going to cover that, because our mission was to get Trump out of office because he's dangerous. And I think when you convince yourself that this person is Hitler, or a fascist, or whatever,
Evil.
I mean,
Yeah.
evil. I mean, what would you? I mean, nothing is off limits. Like, what would you not do? I mean, the whole question about like if you could travel back in time and could kill the infant baby Hitler in his crib, would you do it? I was always in the camp of, yeah, of course I would. Where's the time machine? I'll go back right now. And some people, no, it's never okay to kill an infant. I'm like, that infant, I'll make an exception. That's just me, But like, and I think there's good people.
Baby, I knew liberals were baby killers.
Plenty of good people on both sides of that debate. But so I just think that was the mentality. It's like, look, anything is justified to get him out. And then I think it's so funny, you look back and you're like, okay, well, after January 6th, which to me is just, I mean, that's a stain on him. That's a stain on the party. It's a stain on the administration. It's certainly a stain on the people that kind of tried to whitewash it afterwards, et cetera. But at the end of the day, I mean, like this thing happened, and he was at his lowest approval anywhere. I mean, even Lindsey Graham was like, dude, you guys can do whatever you want, but I'm off the Trump train, right? I mean, like people were just like, nah, he's got to go. I mean, we're done. That chapter is closed, right? And somehow, because of the continued media like attack on him, it's like it turned him into a sympathetic figure. I think like even Joe Scarborough this morning on Morning Joe, like, which I've been saying this for a long time. You and I have had this conversation. I'm like, dude, you not that there weren't actual crimes committed here, but these are paperwork crimes, process crimes, campaign finance crimes. Not that they're real statutes. You violate them, so yeah, you're a felon for real, right? However, we can go down a whole list of people, John Edwards, I mean, we can go down a whole list, Obama, that all had these campaign finance irregularities.
There's usually a fine. They pay the fine, you move on.
You pay the fine and move on. And yet, oh no, we're going to do a compounding crime to elevate this misdemeanor into a felony. And then, no, now you got 34 felony convictions, so you're a felon. And then they just consistently like refer to me, convicted felon, convicted felon, convicted felon, convicted felon. It's like people after a while are like, there's something that doesn't smell right here, And I think it just turned him into a sympathetic figure. When you double that on, which is crazy, like, dude, you have to work really hard to make Donald Trump into a sympathetic figure, and yet, congratulations, you did. And so it's just
so you're thinking.
I think there's that element. Oh, go ahead.
So you're thinking strategically, if they had simply just let him fade away into obscurity, enjoy your golf tournaments, and
I'm not saying that. No, in fact, I think the opposite. I think they should have, if they were going to go down that road of charging him with criminality, they should have done it immediately. So there was what they did is they delayed, but we're working on a report. We're getting all the evidence together. What evidence do you need, dude? We all saw what he did. So like, if you're going to charge these crimes, then charge them. If you're not going to charge them, don't charge them. But you don't need to spend 3 years putting together some, bulletproof report and then bring all of your legal action within a year of the election, so that because they're
to interfere with the primary.
Correct. Their thinking was, oh, we'll do this and it'll derail his opportunity to. Which, okay, let's pretend that's solid strategy. It just completely backfired on them because it came across as politically motivated and disingenuous. If you were really concerned, and that's the same thing I said about they should have charged Bush and Cheney with war crimes. Obama should have done in 08. I still have that position today. They didn't do it. Whatever, it is what it is. Obama wanted to heal the nation or whatever. I mean, same thing Ford did when he pardoned Nixon, right? I mean, it's just like terrible decisions. You should charge that guy too. I mean, he's a criminal. These people are criminals. They should be charged. I mean, yeah. That's my point of view. People are free to disagree, but because they did it the way they did, it was politically motivated, and it came across as politically motivated. And the one of the biggest exit polling things was voters kept referring to it as persecution, not prosecution, right? And so you have that element, and then of course Trump, is such a master of playing the victim, like, oh, they're out to get me, but he did this spin where he's like, they're coming after me because I'm standing for you. So when they come after me, they're really coming after you, and I'm standing here for you, right? And I mean, that there's some logical fallacies there. I'm sure you could probably break that apart better than me, but that really sold. I mean, people were like, yeah, he's standing up for us, right? And it had the reverse effect where he's able to literally almost skip the primary, skip the debates and everything, and just waltz into the nominee. So that was the first thing that I think was a huge mistake on their part. Second thing is keeping an obviously mentally impaired person in as president. That is so disrespectful to the rest. We elected this person to, we didn't elect this administration of faceless people. We elected this guy. I've met Joe Biden personally years ago. You can say whatever you want about him, whether he's got clean hands, dirty hands, whatever. The guy has been a public servant for his entire life. Has he got some dirt on his fingernails? I'm sure he does. I'm sure most people, maybe he's even dirtier than most. I'm not even,
but you were voting for him. For him and his judgment, his experience,
and his integrity, and which he does have, and he's made some bad calls, he's made some good calls, just like everybody else. I mean, he's doing the best he can with what he knows. He was a good candidate, but he wasn't there anymore. So it's like, okay, well, at some point, be honest about it. If he's really that mentally impaired, then why wouldn't you just, if you're going to leverage him with the 25th Amendment, then don't just sit there and let him hang out on a beach for the last 6 months of his, exactly what you said. Let Kamala take over as president, and then she can then actually be an incumbent. She can do some of these things. Look, see, that's a taste of what you're going to get if you elect me. Why wouldn't, if you're going to take a risk on her anyway, why wouldn't you take a risk on that? It just showed that the administration themselves weren't comfortable with her even being the figurehead. Like we everybody could tell he wasn't really making these decisions. So it's like, okay, well, if he's not even making the decision anyway, you guys can make the decision for her. Just do an actual thing here. Don't
she'll read this teleprompter. It's okay.
Yeah, I don't get anyway. So those are the things that contributed to the atmosphere, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the atmosphere, which is not favorable, right? But then underneath that, you had this complete disregard for the performance of, not the performance of the economy. The performance of the economy is excellent by many different metrics. Compared to Europe, compared to whatever, compared to, coming out of COVID, et cetera. There's all these benchmarks that you can use to make the case that, and they tried to do this, Bidenomics, right? Ignoring the central fact that the person, people, when they go to buy the stuff that they buy, groceries, gas, et cetera, they can't afford it anymore. The money doesn't spend. I mean, in 4 years, we lost 25% of our spending power in our dollar. That's crazy. In 4 years. So now,
have you had a 25% increase in your take-home pay?
No, of course not. Right.
Oh,
and so
that would have made it maybe okay.
Well, so look, I work for myself. I own my own business. I can make more money at will. And so did I have to work a little bit harder? Yeah, I did. So we worked a little harder, right? Do we have to adjust some things? Yeah, I did. Okay. But if somebody like me, who actually has the ability to earn more on demand, is feeling the pinch and noticing things, and it's not like we went through any pain. I don't want to put out, oh yeah, it's been tough for us. It hasn't been tough for us. We've done fine. Okay. But enough to where you notice it and you're like, oh, okay, well, I have to do this before I do that. You're kind of starting to play Tetris with your money a little bit. if I'm having to do that, then the person who's actually on a fixed income or a laboring wage, they're actually doing without. And the
Mm-hmm.
fact that this is just like there was no identification, like you're okay as president, like you're responsible for not this person's economic woes, but like I mean, you can't even address it
Yeah.
colloquially. Like
Yeah.
it just
Well,
that
she
was just
did grow up
bananas.
in a middle class family.
Right? She did grow up in a middle
Yeah.
class family.
You
Yeah.
know, I think there are some interesting warning signs that. So, Home Depot is down right now, is being hit really hard. You're like, why would Home Depot be down hard?
As a stock, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Their sales are really down. And it's because, and it's like, well, what's changed? I mean, people still need to repair their homes. People are still, but it's like, but their money is going to food.
They can't
Right,
afford it. Yeah, yeah.
So it's like, if you're like, yeah, we're just going to let that piece of the drywall there on the door, where the door hit it, we're not going to repair it because we'd rather, buy the bread. Then it's kind of
No,
like,
we'd rather buy the bread. We have to buy the bread.
we have to buy the
We gotta
bread.
Eat. Right, right.
Yeah. We're not going to switch over to ramen yet for
Right,
our
right.
dinners. It's not ramen night every night. It's like, man, if people aren't even, we're not even talking about like getting a contractor out there. It's like, no, I can't afford to buy the paint to repaint the walls, so we're just going to leave the walls as they are, kind of thing. And enough people are doing that you're seeing sales for the home self repair start to drop. That looks really bad, But there's like a lot of little things like that it seems like you can address, or say, here's our plan
Of course
for
you
it.
can. Yes. It just you have to acknowledge first. But what's step one of the 12 steps, right? Step one is
There's
that
a
you have a
problem.
problem. I mean,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
just, you would see these things like Don Lemon. I mean, bless his heart, I mean, he's doing man on the street interviews and like, oh, who are you going to vote for? Oh, I'm voting for Trump. Why? Oh, the economy, man. Well, actually, the economy is much better under Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Did you? And the guy was literally like, and just walked. That's
Yeah.
crazy. This guy knows how his budget is doing, and you're going to sit here and tell him that the economy is good? Like,
See,
it was
well, if
like,
you I've seen the especially funny ones where they're like, well, if you exclude food and energy and housing,
right, all the
then
things that I actually
inflation
buy.
is actually leveled off, and you're like, what?
It's bananas, man. Bananas.
If we exclude 80% of the money going out of your bank account,
Excluding
then
the things that you buy, the things are cheaper.
yeah, and it's not even, but it wasn't even that like prices have come back down. It's that inflation has stabilized, right? So it's like, yes, with the exception of those things that you're spending all your money on, our declaring victory is that the new higher price for everything, it stopped climbing. It's not even. I mean, how is that even declaring victory? It's like it's so out of touch. It's like, don't you care? Like you'd have, and I think this is probably what the messaging that has to change for the Democrat Party, which I think it will because they have a good history of this in the past. And I think if you roll back to like a truly great Democrat politician in terms of being able to win elections and to like Bill Clinton.
Oh yeah.
What Bill Clinton was famous for was like holding the little old lady's hands and saying, I feel your pain. I feel your pain. And he would be able to look into their eyes and people would believe it. Everybody would believe it. And, the thing is, he seems like a compassionate person. He has his faults. I'm sure he did. And if you look at a lot of the stuff that he did while he was in office, I think you see, trying, I think, to help people.
Dude, it's hard to argue with the economy at the end of his term. I mean, budget surplus,
Well, I mean, not just the economy, but like some of the social program reform and all sort of stuff. Like, so it's like, okay, he could credibly say when he held the little old lady's hands, I feel your pain. And I think that right now, there's a little bit of that lacking in today's Democrat Party. Yeah. Which I'm sure there are pockets of it. I'm sure you have local politicians that are able to do this. But national politicians, it's people that have a big. I mean, you've got people like. I mean, who's their big people? You've got, AOC, who's like the social media princess, which is amazing, but again, not a feel your pain kind of person, unless you want to have her dress in a white T-shirt and pout next to a chain link fence or something like
I
that.
don't think you're going to find these people in Congress. I mean, traditionally they come from, governors and states and things like this. I think, um, I mean, Shapiro is excellent. He can totally get that
Yeah,
done. There's a bunch. Christian Jill what's her name? Gillibrand or whatever.
Gillibrand.
Yeah,
Yeah, Gillibrand's good.
excellent. I mean, you can go down a whole list, dude. Tester that unfortunately just lost his seat in Minnesota, but that guy's an excellent communicator.
Yep.
The governor from Colorado, excellent. Even
But
and it's funny, like Gavin Newsom, like keeps coming up in conversation. To me, that's a challenge because it's a heavy lift because of all of the, anecdotal and like very visible decay in California. It's very difficult. I don't know how he's going to get around that, but I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that he'll absolutely make a stab at it. And at least he's well spoken. He can articulate a case. Like
sure.
one thing I'll give him is, I mean, that guy can get on and literally like he can stand his ground and go toe to toe, even when he's talking nonsense. Like it sounds really
well. And I think if he's able to capture the imagination of the electorate, I think the weird issue is we didn't have a real primary this time. So like looking at the 2020 primary was so odd. You had this big group of people all ready to take on Donald Trump and either they were sort of pushed out or like you had the ones that were internally critical of the Democrat Party, like Gabbard, who were just ejected from the party. I mean, she's a Republican now. Like,
that was crazy.
Like, she's
the thing is
done,
too, like these, so you had, we can talk. There's some crossover, right? Mm-hmm. So you had the Cheneys go over to the Democrats. You had, of course, Kinzinger. You had, all the ex, chief of staff, John Kelly. You had a bunch of different defections, which was newsworthy. And so, like when they were reporting on it, it's like, okay, well, that's a big story, and that is persuasive to a lot of people, as it should be. I mean, like who knows better what Trump's like than the people that work directly for him? And it's like, okay,
sure.
well, you got all these people that work directly with Trump that say he's,
he's a monster.
He's a disaster, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But then the defections that were going the other direction were also like incredibly newsworthy, and they weren't being reported. They were literally every single person that would go over. It was just completely like, Tulsi Gabbard. Oh, well, she's a Russian agent.
She was a Republican anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
RFK, he's a lunatic and he's got a brain worm and he's a whatever,
Yeah.
Elon Musk, who's like the most accomplished person possibly in the country at the moment, and it's like, he's a conspiracy theorist, and in fact it's kind of interesting.
He's the enemy.
He's the enemy. I predict actually that now that the election is over, Trump will go from being enemy number one to like enemy number 5. Like enemy number 1 will be Elon Musk, and enemy number 2 will be JD Vance, because I mean Trump, he's got 4 years to do what he's going to do, but after that, he's out theoretically, unless he becomes emperor or something. But
God emperor.
Yeah, exactly. But Musk for sure. You got to hand it to Musk. I mean, like there's gonna be people watching this that are like, I can't believe this. Look, let's set aside every accomplishment that he's ever had. Set aside any debt that he's made in any industry. Just set all of that aside, right? The fact that he bought Twitter and then allowed people to put the fact that these conversations were happening on the right, that allowed these very bizarre bedfellows, as the politics is those strange bedfellows or whatever.
Yep.
The fact you got RFK, Elon Musk, so RFK, lifelong liberal Democrat. Elon Musk was an Andrew Yang universal basic income guy last cycle. Tulsi Gabbard was the chair of the Democratic National, plus Democratic senator, plus Congresswoman, plus Democratic candidate for president. Crossover. You had, I mean, we can go down a whole list of these things. You had, and then look at all of the people in the blogosphere. The Dave Rubins, the Anna Kasparian or whatever her name is from the Young Turks.
From Young Turks, yeah.
I mean, I can go down a whole list of all these people that are like hardcore liberals that are like, dude, I'm so done with this mockery of a party and with just these complete like mischaracterizations being put out on the media. And I don't think if Twitter wasn't there, you wouldn't have had the pressure on YouTube and all these other outlets to continue airing,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
But these people have
the
platforms.
misinformation, right? Because they
Yeah.
would have just been able to put a lid on it, and who's going to know? Good luck getting your word out.
It's
And
like, well, it's on
I
Twitter. You just go look over there, and they're like, well, we're losing eyeballs over to Twitter, so
can't have that, right? I
yeah, we
mean,
got to let it on ours too.
I thought it was so interesting, man, when Rogan interviewed Trump, and I think I sent you a video of this, but you couldn't find the video. So thankfully,
Yeah,
I was subscribed on Spotify,
YouTube
so I know
suppressed it.
suppressed the video. So like in 2 days, that video had 37 million views in 2 days.
Yeah.
That's the most watched video possibly on the internet. And
No. That's still size music video for Gangnam Style.
pardon me. Oh, but hey, that's a great video. Oh, what about Turned Down for What? Didn't that come out? Anyway, okay. So, and I went to YouTube, not signed in as me. I was signed out, so anonymous, used private, browser and incognito, right? And you go and
Tried to
type in
find it.
Trump Rogan in YouTube, and you had all these clips, excerpts, by commentators, saying, "Oh, well, smart points, terrible points, bro mode,
Mm-hmm.
blah blah blah, whatever," right? You couldn't find it, and then okay, let's search by relevance, right? Nope. The only way you could get it to pop up was to search by views, and then of course 37 million views is going to be right at the top. I'm like, how is this not the relevant result?
Like it's not only the one with the most views, but it's the one with the most videos about it. Shouldn't that automatically mean it's the one that probably needs to be at the top of the list?
So then he goes over to Twitter and posts it and says,
Rogan
hey,
does, right?
Rogan basically says, hey, we're having a problem with people finding the video on YouTube, so here's the link. And then all of a sudden, YouTube fixes their thing, and you can find it super easy. And it's kind of funny when he was talking with his buddies. He does these things where every UFC fight, he'll get other fighters. They'll sit there and comment. But they brought it up. So, hey, you interviewed Trump yesterday. How'd that go? And he's like, dude, it was bananas because you couldn't. He's talking about it, and he said, oh no, it was it Fetterman that he had on? Anyway, he goes, I'm sure it was totally innocent. I'm
just a simple mistake.
I'm sure it was totally innocent. And whoever he was interviewing goes, wait, you really believe it was innocent? He goes,
no, come on,
no, yeah, come on. I just, I don't know, man. So looking forward. So I was going to say this at the very beginning. And I got some person was like, saw the emoticon come in, like, I said, oh, I'm actually kind of hopeful in a way. Here's what I'm hopeful about.
Okay, let's hear it.
Yeah. So I'm hopeful for a couple things. So one, I'm very hopeful for the ironically the quality of discourse going forward, in the sense that what was patently obvious during this cycle is that the media per se, the way we think about the media, broadcast, cable, whatever, is really. I'm not saying it's going away. I'm not going to call it they're dead or whatever, but just the conversation has moved on. The place that you would go to YouTube and see, like, okay, here's Kamala's 60 Minutes interview, and it would have 100,000 views, whatever day of maybe 80,000, be 120, 300,000, whatever, and then you would see Megyn Kelly show. Deconstructs Kamala's interview, right, on 60 Minutes, and that would have like a couple million views, right? And it was so different with what people were actually watching and what they were attracted to and the type of content they want to see. And what they wanted to see was uninterrupted, uncorporate, manufactured garbage. It's like what we've been watching on TV is basically processed food. It's the junk that you buy in the boxes in the middle of the supermarket. Everybody knows the good food is like, you go to the meat cabinet, right? You go to the vegetables.
Yeah, if you want cheese, don't buy the one in the can. Go to the back.
Individually wrapped into slices, because that's
it's like in a wheel. Like, get the one in the wheel, and then cut that one up. That's better.
Yeah.
That's better.
Yeah. It's more convenient for me. I prefer cheese food. It says cheese food. Yeah. But that's literally what I mean. Like this whole idea of these debates, right? And it's like, I think debates are gone. I don't think the Presidential Commission on Debates. I mean, I would just be shocked if anybody. Why would you bother?
Yeah,
this whole idea, we're 2 minutes to respond, 60 seconds, we're gonna cut your mic off if you don't,
yeah.
it's like,
I'm pretty sure that's
Rogan,
over.
that's over. I mean, Rogan said, which I thought was just brilliant. Like he goes, because he's, oh, would you? Somebody was on there saying, would you host a debate? And he's like, I wouldn't. I would love to host them. He goes, but there's no need for, they come in, sit at the studio. I'll introduce them. Hey, welcome to the Rogan Show. Got so and so. Got so and so. You guys seem to disagree about a lot, so have at it.
Yeah.
And
What
then,
would you say
and
is
that's
your
it.
biggest disagreement? And then let's start.
And let's go. And
Yeah.
there's really no need. You maybe ask two questions, but a free flowing conversation like this. Like, dude, if I disagree with you on something, we'll sit here and talk for an hour on it, and you'll try to convince me. I'll try to convince you. Here's why you're wrong. Here's why I said, well, with respect, blah, blah, blah. Even if I hate you, I mean, we yell and throw a couple of names at each other. But, it's
No, you're the puppet. No.
No, you're the puppet. No puppet. No puppet. You're the puppet. I'm rubber, you're glue.
I'll tell you, it's, yeah, exactly. Something that I thought, so this may be true, but like, again, for anyone listening, you should never take my predictions. I am wrong more than anybody else in the world, but
I can attest to that.
I had the same view that you have right now in '08 because of the minister, I can't remember the pastor's name out in California, that did these long form interviews with both Obama and McCain. I can't think of his name.
I remember that. Yeah, but see,
Yeah.
the audience was, you had to find it. It happened at one time,
Right. But the thing about it though was that it was televised.
Quality conversation. Yeah.
It was televised. It had a lot of press about it, and everyone was saying at the time that this was so much better than the debates, which also happened at roughly the same time. You got to hear them talk. It was a very relaxed environment. They were able to say really whatever they wanted in a way that was like, you really got a feel for the candidates. And I think that for a lot of people, Obama's performance on that cemented the deal in a way that the debate could not have done. And so I thought, like, oh my gosh, this is the future. Like, we're not going to have a debate. We're going to have these conversations.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to see the candidate and hear them in their own words. And you're not going to have the minute and a half to respond stuff like, tell us what you would do, to figure out the Middle East situation. You have 90 seconds. And it's just like, what? I mean, there's no way to even give a response in 90 seconds,
Well, yeah, give me your best practice soundbite, and then the other guy calls you a liar and whatever. I mean, it's just not a,
Yeah.
And I think the other,
if you want to see a real repudiation of that, there was a film that was done about the Palin vice presidential candidacy.
can
HBO,
I call you Joe?
Yeah, HBO did it, and it had Woody Harrelson was in it, and it was very good. I actually think it was quite generous to Sarah Palin. Like, I think Julianne Moore played her, and by the end of it, you kind of felt like she...
How about the movie? The Game Change?
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the end, you felt like she had been sort of railroaded through a process that she was actually a good person, but this was not. This was just the wrong venue for her and stuff.
I thought that at the time. Yeah. I mean, she's a great mayor in Alaska, but she had no business on that stage.
Well, the way they did the debate, where it was like, we can't train her to actually know things. So like, what we'll do is we'll just say, here are the things that you talk about. You say these words, you say these words, you say these words.
You're really reminiscent of this cycle, by the way.
Yeah, it really was. Well, and I think after you watch that, then you look at the presidential debates ever since the 2012, 16, 20, now 24, and you're like, oh, that's what this is. So it's like, why would we have
quarterback? It's catch, pivot, throw away.
Yeah. Why would we do that? Why would we have a commission that sits there and says, here's the requirements for being able to get on the debate stage. You have to have at least 2% polling in Iowa, and it's like all very weird and exclusionary, and the content is so low quality anyway. It's like, well, okay, if you had someone, not necessarily Rogan, but podcasters, who could get people on, maybe in pairs or 3 at a time, and you would get interesting people in there, and it's like, hey, maybe we could have wound up with a Ron Paul for the Republican side, or maybe the Democrats actually would have nominated Sanders if that had been the format where people could hear his ideas and so on, instead of the
The other,
90 seconds and 120, 2 minutes to respond.
yeah, the other thing that was just uh, in your face, I think this cycle is that, you know, and again, say what you want about their views, but Trump, JD Vance, and then look, you can even break it down by surrogates, right? I mean, you had Elon, RFK, Vivek. I mean, I just go down a whole list of these surrogates. They were everywhere. They were
Mm-hmm.
on every podcast. They were on liberal shows, lefty shows, right wing shows, pro military shows, pro Israel shows, pro Palestinian shows. They were everywhere. I mean,
Yeah. It was a
and
full saturation play.
and it was, and there was no like, here are my here's what you can ask me about, here's what you can't ask me about, I'm only going to have 15 minutes to get. It was like, I'll show up and give you an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. I mean, like, ask me anything, and
Did you
that
notice
that
that? Did you notice that also the surrogates never, like, they wouldn't say the exact same thing as the other ones?
right, there was no talking points either. That was
Like when you would get
interesting.
Vivek in there, you would actually get Vivek.
That's right. It was interesting too, because I remember maybe, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, I saw Vivek on a podcast with Mark Cuban, and they had a
Mm.
very good exchange on DEI and a bunch of other things. And Cuban is very articulate. Had some really good points on his end. Vivek had some very good points on his end. At the end, I was kind of like, I think both of these guys had really good points.
This is an enlightening discussion.
Yeah, this is very. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
I actually got even a little bit more friendly with the idea of DEI, the way that Cuban was expressing. I don't think that's the way it actually plays out in society, but he at least articulated a very good rationale for why that was an important ingredient in the corporate landscape.
Mm-hmm.
It was just very good. And I was like, man, it's a shame that Vivek, and I think he actually admitted this. He was like, during the campaign when he was in the, running for president, he felt, he was almost like a caricature of himself. And he was like, I really kind of,
felt like he was a persona or something.
Yeah, I needed to think about like kind of what image I'm putting out there. I want to make sure that I get this audience. I don't piss off this audience, but at the same time need to, narrowcast here, broadcast here. He's like, it's not that I can't remember. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he was like, dude, it's not that he said anything that was untrue to what he thought, but like the hyperbole and some of the over the top stuff he was saying, like he was doing it to kind of stand out. Here you got this debate, you got 15 people on the stage, you got, 2 seconds to make a, I get it. And it's stupid. The whole environment's stupid. And he was like, well, like if I had to do over again, I think I just would have just played it straight and like, hey, here's what I think about these things. And, I think he's got a huge future, in the party and in the political conversation. I'd be surprised if we don't see more of him. And I think on the left, I'm trying to think who I saw that was just really distinguished themselves. I thought
Cheney. Sorry.
I thought, and it's really sad, man. Like, I mean, Liz Cheney. Here's what's crazy. I still think the January 6th commission in Congress was not only a necessary exercise, but a valuable one. I don't know if you've ever read the output that they had there, but I mean, they did a really good job of like, here's what led up to that day. Here were the different functions that were in play. Here was the conspiracy that was at foot to replace these electors, et cetera. It was very, very enlightening, and you can say, oh, it's all made up. It's not all made up. They have, these are the things that happen. On the flip side, though, like the idea that they couldn't parlay that into either an immediate action or whatever, and instead just kind of held on to it and used it for political theater is just such a wasted opportunity. And it's like a waste of everybody's time. It's like, it almost feels like, it's like the way you feel when you read the Warren Commission or whatever on, the Kennedy assassination. You're like, dude, this is not quite, because that's just full of falsehoods, but it's also like just like, dude, you wasted your time, you wasted all of our time, and anyway, it's pretty pathetic. So
But yeah,
Um,
you were saying on the left some of the people that you were impressed with as they you said who was
oh,
it? Sink? You thought?
yeah, Shank I thought did a great job of just calling out. Um, you know, I feel like he was an effective surrogate for Kamala once he kind of got on board with that.
Mm-hmm.
He had effectively called for an convention, which that was, I mean, obviously Biden should have done this. This should have happened. This should have. Okay, but none of that happened. So, given what did happen at the moment that you forced him to step aside,
Mm-hmm.
that would have been the no-brainer thing to do. Convention's coming up in a week. There's no reason to rush into, you know, coronating somebody. Let's just have it out at the convention. It would have made for great TV. The voters would have felt like they were involved in the process. Yeah, it would have been messy. Yeah, it would have been unpredictable, but it would have been democracy at work, which you claim to, care about.
Right.
And just the fact there was like no interest in it. It was like that was really eye opening to me. I That was really eye opening. I couldn't understand why they were keeping Joe Biden in place. And then when they moved him aside, it was like, oh, this is actually exciting. We might get an actual quality candidate on that side, because there was a lot of talent, I thought, on the bench, and it was just kind of such a wasted opportunity. And then this is just a waste of our time the rest of the next 4 months. So, but anyway, to wrap up what I was saying before, the
Yeah.
things that I'm hopeful about, I'm
Yeah.
really hopeful about the level of conversation. I'm very hopeful about the fact that there is a much more democratized kind of access to the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
given X, and now that the rules have kind of trickled down on Google and the rest of these places. I think, I don't know, they could always revert to bad behavior, but I think it's more of a wide open playing field now for conversation. I'm very hopeful about the "Make America Healthy Again" slogan thing is berserk for me, but the initiative, I think, has a lot of merit. Like, that needs to be talked about. It's bizarre to me, actually, that the left doesn't embrace that more.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like, okay, if you're a fan of clean energy but you don't support nuclear power plants, I can't get on your page. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, okay,
It's like
there's something I'm missing.
we're in favor of
There's something I'm
spending a lot of
missing here.
money on healthcare, but I think you should not have access to healthy food.
Correct.
Well, that's
Yeah, we're not.
strange.
It's strange. It's very strange. So I don't understand that. That is absolute fundamental. Like, we have a massive obesity problem, all these different things, and a health problem, and obviously the healthcare system and the money that we spend and the outcomes that we get are tragic. And it's just like, okay, well, if they're gonna if they're gonna task force that and actually take a solid look at that and come up with some remediation there, that is awesome. Nobody else was talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else was really talking about reducing the footprint of the government itself, the bureaucracy.
Musk was.
Although, but that's what I'm saying. Except for that conversation existing
sure.
over here,
Sure.
in the Trump camp, nobody else was really talking about that, and I couldn't understand why. Once it was brought up, it's like, I never thought about it before, but it's like, gosh, yeah, that's right. You got all these departments that supposedly have some mission that were created to accomplish, and there's no accountability on how they're doing with that mission and how they're related to it. And in fact, is this department, should it get shrunk? Should it get reapportioned? Should we still have it? Should we grow it? Should we double the size of it? Triple the size of it? Is it a bigger problem than we thought? There's none of that. It's just let's spend all the money in our budget, by July, so that we can argue that we need more money in October when appropriations comes around, and then the whole idea that the nature of humanity is to survive and replicate, biologically, and the nature of bureaucracy is to
survive and replicate, right? No.
survive, but it's to grow forever. I mean, like, there's no incentive structure inside of bureaucracy to shrink. That wouldn't make any sense. So, those things I'm very hopeful about. I was very gratified to see the quick concession. And, she had that little dig in the speech, we do believe in the peaceful transfer of power. We will work. That's really good, because I think it takes a lot of the teeth out of some of the arguments that were being made on the right that, the liberals are going to try to steal this, and they're going to do exactly what, it's kind of the argument you were making. Oh, well, now the playbook is out there. Everybody's going to be doing it to each other. The fact that that's not going down is very cool. Um, that you could always make the argument that it would have if it was closer, perhaps, but perhaps not.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Perhaps that was an overblown caricature, and so I think that's gratifying to see.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm super glad that abortion and gay marriage is basically been completely removed, as far as I can tell, from the Republican side of their platform. There's no initiative anywhere to restrict abortion rights or national ban or any of the other kind of stuff that we're talking about for decades. And there's also no Defense of Marriage Act or some of this other nonsense that's been pushed by the religious right. The religious right, in my view, has been successfully co-opted into this movement, and there's not some kind of like conservative, Christian religious, overreaching.
Let's
at least
ban
verbally.
rap music.
Explicit lyrics. None of that is going on, and so I just think that is very exciting. I never would have thought that was one of my biggest pet peeves with the right, how it got co-opted by religion. So these are all things that I think are very positive. So like, as you look through kind of the wreckage of the evening, and you're cleaning up the party streamers, there's a lot of things to be excited about. I think.
So let me give mine real quick before we have to go. So I think as like a playbook person, it has been nice for me to see that some things on the playbook looks like they're going to get removed.
Such as
calling the other side fascists. Turns out that doesn't work as a campaign.
Right.
Now you can say that, but you can't make that your campaign. Stop Hitler.
It's at least been proven to be ineffective, because there's not going to be another candidate that emerges that's more fascist-like than this guy. So, like, if it didn't work on him, it's not going to work on him.
It's not going to work. Yeah, so don't worry about that. Right, so that's over. I think lawfare as a way to keep someone away from office, or as kind of like punishment for political actions, I think we're seeing that as a losing one, and especially if you. Likely, since Trump has had to pay for a lot of this stuff personally, and court time and money and all that sort of stuff, if those people that were involved are, or like that greenlit these prosecutions and stuff, if they wind up getting some consequences for their actions, whatever those are. I'm not talking about like jail time or whatever, but that.
What are you talking about? The people that did what?
That greenlit, that approved some of these, what we talked about earlier, is like just mere process crimes that were elevated in order to
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that's like, well, hey, look, we're going to make sure that maybe we can't prosecute you because you have prosecutorial immunity, but you've definitely lost your job here. We're not going to work with any law firm that ever hires you. Like that kind of stuff. So
as long as there's not criminal penalties, then I don't object to that. If you pick the wrong team, you got to suffer the consequences.
So it's like maybe some of those ideas get flushed out of the system. It's like, yeah, that's a bad strategy. Don't do that strategy. So I think that's nice. Some of the hopeful side. I think there was a story in this that was kind of buried in the noise of the night. One of the things that the Harris campaign had tried to do, or that felt like that this was a strategic advantage for them, is in a few states, Florida being one, I think it was 4 total, that they would put states that had very restrictive abortion laws to put ballot initiatives to unrestrict abortion, or to increase abortion access. And their thinking was, if you have this on the ballot, directly on the ballot,
will motivate people out to secure their abortion rights, and then they'll vote against Trump. Yeah.
They'll vote against Trump because, the polling has shown that the people who are most interested in, or who rate abortion as a very, very high on their
priority, are not Trump fans. Yeah.
Well,
and job one is to get them off the couch. Yeah.
Yes. And so that's what they were thinking. So that strategy failed. And it failed
that spectacularly backfired, because it gave him, I think, a permission structure to, okay, well, I already voted for my abortion rights. Now I can do what's right for me on the economy.
Yeah, that was, I think that was like, be careful what you wish for, right? So we put that on the ballot. So in Florida, Florida was like, great, now they voted it down to like, we're doubling down on our abortion restrictions. So it's like, great, so now that's got nowhere, and it'll take all this work to put it back on the ballot some point in the future. So like putting it up before the issue is ripe, turns out like that's probably set them back, or set that issue back. Like, why would we put it on the ballot again? We just voted it down. And then, yeah, for the other states, it gave people the ability to separate in their mind voting for the Republican and voting to increase access to abortion.
Mm-hmm.
Because instead of saying no,
and had the positive side effect of making abortion more widely available. So I'm a fan.
Right, but I mean, thinking in terms of strategy, right? So like using a wedge issue like this, and I think that's gonna be something that would give future campaigns pause, where they're like, oh, we'll put this on the ballot, that'll secure us, and it's like it may actually do the opposite.
That kind of thing has worked for years on both sides. Mm-hmm. The Republicans would put some Defensive Marriage Act up, and then they'd be, oh, you can vote for this, and then no, while you're there, make sure you do the right thing. Mm-hmm. And that's worked for a long time. So that is I missed that. That's a really good the reduction in effectiveness of wedge issues. I mean, how is that not great for everyone?
I think that's fantastic. Yeah. So that way we're not yelling about a bunch of stuff like on the margins. We can start trying to figure out ways to improve people's lives, make the government more effective, so on. So. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely there's. I'm hoping that there's a lot less drama between now and mid-January when the inauguration happens. I think it would be fantastic if Biden shows up to the inauguration, and that we have like a very orderly, peaceful transfer of power.
Well, I was just thinking, dude, the only president to not show up for his opponent's inauguration was Trump.
Oh, it's Trump. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, so it's like, I hope the Democrats take the high road on this.
Well, and
we'll see. We'll see.
And I think, dude, and I've spent a lot of time on here trashing Democrats the last few months, but I want to give them some credit because they deserve it. Like Trump was an abysmal example of being charitable, gracious, any of those things. Like he didn't let go of power easily. He didn't leave office easily, and then he didn't even bother to show up to. None of the niceties of the sit down that Obama gave him all the time. That at the end of the day, it's like when you received all that,
did you want to give
and
it
you
to
can't turn around and just continue the tradition. Like there was no respect, frankly. It's one thing to say, hey, look, I disagree with your policies. I disagree with this whole thing. I think you're bought and paid for by corporate, whatever. I mean, you can go down a whole list of very valid charges against the system, the man, whatever. They're out to get me. This was unfair, whatever the case may be. But the fact that you couldn't even have the respect to do, and then to see these guys, even though they were these guys being Kamala and Walz and Biden and whatever, even though they're on the receiving end of a lot of this stuff when they came into power, now turning around and saying, hey, look, we're going to do the right thing. I mean, so they're on record saying that. To me, that absolutely deserves commendation. That was the one thing that was just, to me, disqualifying about Trump. You and I talked about it. I could not get past it.
It definitely speaks in the Democrats' favor on this one.
Big time. And so I hope, I mean, again, like somebody made the point to me earlier. They're like, well, he's been incendiary this whole time, because he's had to get elected, he's had to stay elected. Once you're elected, you got to, your most important job is to get. Most important job is to get reelected. But now he doesn't have any reelection to do. Maybe now he can just settle down and be the Donald Trump that everybody wanted when to run. If you remember, like before the whole birther escapade, it was like there was a lot of interest in him running for president on both sides. So if he returns to that frame, then great.
Maybe
I don't have a lot of expectation on that, but we'll see.
Maybe winning the popular vote might have softened him.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm beloved by the people.
Yeah, I don't have anything to prove now. Let me just go do my job. Maybe. We'll see. Yeah. Fingers crossed. All right, brother. It's good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Yeah, man.
Exciting
God bless
times.
America.
Yeah. Well, at least I know I'm free.
Oh, God. I'm out of here.
All right. See ya.
See ya.